I actually did have a question. Uh,
Well, there you go. Go for it.
I've been working freelance for about like 5 years, but my ability to like keep clients like a steady stream of them has been kind of tough. And like I've tried pursuing like smaller indie groups to try and like I guess break into concept art like as an industry, but I found that like most of the bigger people weren't hiring because they already had enough people, and most of the smaller teams they were so like small and like didn't have a lot of funding that they didn't have any place for like a dedicated artist, especially like something as specialized as a concept artist. So I guess I just wanted to ask if you know of any good resources or any good way to find work as a concept artist that would get you the relevant experience to move on to bigger like AAA work.
So wait, are you saying that because you had lack of experience, it was harder to get those jobs, those bigger studios?
That's what it seemed to be. I mean, I always got kind of the carbon copy rejection letter. We'll keep your thing on file and we'll call you in the future. But I think a lot of it is like I don't really have any shipped titles to speak of, like as an artist. Like it's part of the territory of working with indie studios is a lot of the stuff you work on ends up never going anywhere. So like there's a lack of shipped titles, and I feel like a lack of like studio experience, and I think that keeps me from getting some of the work I would like to get.
Okay. Um, so usually it's a couple things that will prevent you from getting the work that you're looking for. And one of those things, generally speaking, is just the quality of the work, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing is the people that you actually interact with, like the people that actually know that you exist. And so if you have like a very low amount of people that like are in your friends list, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Give or take, like people that could vouch for your abilities, it is hard. But this experience thing, I mean, there's definitely some truth that they're looking for people with like experience to do a thing, you know. But I would say that it's not entirely. Um, it really isn't that valued over the quality thing. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
typically, what I find happens whenever this type of stuff happens to students of mine or people that I know, it's usually their just work isn't just good enough, you know, to work at like a AAA studio. And you're right, like smaller studios tend to probably not want to. They just don't have space for someone, let's say, of your caliber. You know, that's a little bit better than your average bear, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
You know. But then that falls into the trap of like you just don't know enough people. You don't go to enough events. You don't talk to enough people outside of your circles. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And if you change those two circumstances, which are the only two circumstances, by the way, you can change, you know, which is the quality of work you do, right?
Mm-hmm.
On top of the people that you meet. This is why I always recommend going to events, right? Because of this specific reason of like finding more and more friendships and connections in the industry. It's super powerful. And the quality work stuff, I mean, that one's obvious, right? You just gotta get good. I mean, it's gonna be really hard to deny that like someone who is like a really good like skilled artist, let's say, has not had that much experience, like someone that's really talented and has a really good ability and painting style and what have you, and let's say they like fit the bill and everything, you know, like they're just really good artists. It's gonna be hard for you to show me an example of this type of person who gets rejected specifically because of their experience I'm sure they exist. I'm sure people may have said that, but it would really have to be like this person would draw really well, but then maybe the lack of experience is because they need to understand the pipeline to have value. But as a concept artist, you don't really need to understand the pipeline to have value, right?
Mm-hmm.
If someone tells you to draw a laser shark with tiger face, like with a tiger's face, that's your task. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't need to know what the modeler's up to. Like they'll tell you how to do it. Like they'll tell you that you need orthographics and all that stuff. If you have examples of this in your portfolio, they're going to just count that as experience. Okay. So then what does that then mean? Well, it just means that maybe a lot of the stuff that you were sending to people was just not as good as they were looking for. And it's just the reality of it. Now, how can you fix this? Like the quality stuff, like how do you determine like how to have good enough work? Well, you just look at the people you're competing against, right? You look at the studio in which you're trying to apply for and see who was hired there, right? And I don't mean like senior level people either. Like I'm talking about like everyone. Look at the kind of broad spectrum. Look at the people that are potentially at your junior level, and look at the people that are at the senior level, right? Because you might find that some studios will have senior level artists not as good as you suspected, and then you find that the junior artists of that same studio are really good, right? So there's like some weird contrast there, but it's not that weird. It's mostly like some sort of legacy thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some seniority thing, right? These people might have been there longer that may not have as good work as you would expect for this industry, right? And a lot of people tend to forget to do this, and it can seem really demoralizing and really sucky when you get rejection after rejection. But you have to be realistic. Like think about it like if you're a recruiter and someone applies to your work and the work is not as good as, let's say, your junior artists, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or let's say they're looking for someone that's painting at like a really senior level and you're submitting junior level work. Would you get hired? Would it be because of experience? And the answer is most likely no. It's not like you're barely good enough, or it's not like we don't care about the quality of your work. We really care about the experience. I don't really hear those conversations happening. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I rarely like maybe if like you're going for like a more manager or like a director or lead role, that would be actually pretty valuable, right? Because then that experience matters, because then you need to be able to share that experience to the people below you. You know what I mean? But like if you're just coming in, just like I said, like just drawing robots and shit, what kind of experience do you need? Like you just need to have robots in your portfolio, you know? And there's plenty of jobs. There's plenty of jobs because people are looking for people that are capable of the work that they're doing, that they need. So you just go to like glassdoor.com, type in concept artist. All right, let's see what's up here. I've done this before. And you'll see that there's like all sorts of jobs for all sorts of companies. It keeps going. Right? Get. You see that? So
Yeah, I guess it's just always, the prefix is always like senior or lead concept or something like that. And I mean, like, on the topic of being realistic, I know I'm not like despite the work I've been doing over the years, like I know I'm not like a senior or a lead level in terms of my
sure.
skills. So I guess it's always just trying to find an entry level concept position, because it's always like
There are plenty of entry concept art positions too, my dude. It's just that you got to look. I mean, you said that there's a lot of lead and senior. Okay, the first one is, the second one isn't. Okay, the third one that I saw, but then the fourth one isn't. The fifth, sixth one, the seventh, the eighth, the ninth, the 10th, the 11th, the 12th, the 13th. This one seems senior. 14th, 15th. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
There's plenty. All right. And they're all varying levels. What I mean, like you need to look at the standard. Like, okay, so let's look at high voltage, right? So they're in Illinois. I don't know if they're looking for contract or not, but let's say you don't care about that kind of stuff. And so you're like, all right, I want to go to high voltage. High voltage concept art. All right. Let's see if we can find something. Let's see if we could find, I don't know if this is it. We would have to be very, like, what are the games that they worked on? That's probably a better way of going about it. Games. High Voltage worked on Injustice. Is that true? I guess they're working together in conjunction. Let's see what the website would say. Okay. This is not helpful either. But at least there's some artwork over here. So you can at least take a look at that artwork and say, okay, at least my artwork is as good as these illustrations to the left. You know?
Mm-hmm.
It looks like a bunch of warriors, like fantasy type characters are about to fight one robot. It's weird. You know? Damaged core. Damaged core game concepts. Let's see if we can find. Yeah, there's damaged core. I mean, there's some. That's pretty cool VR looking game. But again, like you could probably look at the image and take that as face value. Right? And basically go off of that. And if your artwork is not as good, like I promise you, they're not turning you down then because of experience. Then you can see like, oh, it's probably just because I'm just not good enough. Right? Mm-hmm. You're right to go for indie studios, but then the problem with the indie studios is that they're hard to find. That's why you have to go to events. Like they're trying to be recognized just as much as you are. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I used to be a part of like a game dev collective in Philly, Philly Game Forge, and that was like how I met most of the people and tried to get most of the work in there.
Yeah, and then how did that go for you?
Well, like I said, like it went all right. Like most of the work I was actually able to find was like QA stuff, like people who need people to test their games. But you know, like that was where most of my freelance stuff came from, was doing like Steam capsules for people, or you know, doing some sort of character illustration or something. But it was just so infrequent, you know.
Yeah, well, think about what I've been saying, right? Like you have to go to a thing, you have to do this stuff, you have to go to these places, right? Mm-hmm. And you just gave me evidence that it's true, right? Because you said like the place where you got a lot of these kind of first opportunities was because you went to this Philly game dev thingy, right? Mm-hmm. So you just got to do that more. You know what I mean? Like it's like if you told me, man, like, yeah, man, like every time I go to this watering hole, there's like plenty of water, and then every time I leave, it's like really hard to find any more water. And it's like, well, just keep going to the watering hole or find more watering holes. You know? Uh-huh. It's pretty simple. It's not as complicated as it may appear, is what I'm trying to get at. Okay. And it just feels this way because you're just still starting out. So you're still trying to figure it out. You know what I mean? Like it seems really daunting and it feels overwhelming. And that's why I'm sensitive to this problem, this question that you have. You know what I mean? But I'm trying to be like very clear with you, like why it's happening, you know? Yeah. And I'm also trying to make sure that you're reminded of what you can do to solve this problem. Okay. And so once you start to understand the principles that I'm kind of laying down here, you know, it becomes way, way easier to kind of work towards a goal like that than it is to just kind of like just figure that there's something that you just don't understand about the industry.
No, just flopping around in a job search.
Yeah, it's you got to hustle, you know? Like you can't just hope that someone finds you and gives you opportunity, right? Like you have to find the opportunities. For instance, like I've been doing game dev for about 2 years now, almost, right? I've been just practicing and studying. I'm getting closer and closer to feeling that I'm in total control of this thing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But now it's like I realize, oh shoot, now it's time for me to build a portfolio and start putting my shit out there, you know? And I'm gonna follow the same advice. I've already done it. I've found some Discord channels where there's game devs, and I've been posting my stuff there, getting feedback. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna try to find some events and conventions, put my face to other people's faces. You know, because that's what I did before, and it worked really great. And that's what I've seen work for many other people. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a hard road, but it is a road, and there is a way. You know.
Yeah.
And so you just got to keep your head up. Going to events too, like real like big events for like game devs and stuff like that, is really nice, because then you can also just have people look at your work at the time, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll give you some really good criticism. Sometimes the kind of criticism that you would have never got any other way, you know, and it's really nice. And sometimes you'll just get like weird criticism that doesn't really help you at all, but that's good to hear too. So you can kind of get a spectrum of feedback, you know, not just live in a bubble of misunderstanding, right? And so why doesn't anyone love me, you know? And so you got to get out of that, right? And that's one of the ways to do it.
Is there any event that you found to be particularly helpful? I went to GDC a couple of years ago. I haven't been back since. It's a little pricey, and I don't have like a ton of money to throw around. So I'm just wondering, like, if you
Yeah.
have any thoughts on like the most cost-effective event to go to for this kind of networking.
GDC is pretty good, but it is expensive. And so,
Yeah, I was lucky enough to go as a CA, one of the volunteers. So
oh
the
wow,
first time I got in free, but I haven't been back since.
you should just keep doing that. You should keep trying to find a ways to get there without spending too much money. Um, but there's several others, but they're also pretty pricey to get to. There's one called Indiecade. It's an indie game to place.
Oh yeah, I'm familiar with Indicate.
Yeah, that's one. Uh, Nothing that a good old Google search couldn't like would be able to not help you with. Like it'll actually help you out with. You know, I don't see why it wouldn't be able to. You know, you should just
Yeah.
like applying for what is it, a volunteer. That's helpful too. There's ways around it. You know, um, there was CTN, but I think CTN's a joke, so don't go there. But there's plenty of things happening. But there's Bobby Chu's doing a new thing, so we'll see how that goes. You know, so I'd say just keep trying stuff. You know, and so for me, I go to every event I can, and that's what I did in the past. Like I can't tell you like which one event is the one that like is the best, because it's more of a matter of like it's a matter of just timing, you know, as well as the quality of your work. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so like what I mean by this is that like if you go to an event but you never work on your portfolio, then it's kind of pointless to go to the event. I mean, yes, you can make some connections and stuff, but those connections won't be nearly as strong, right? And then if you go with like pretty good work and you have, and I would say like decent work, you don't even have to have great work, but just decent work, you can start building connections. You know, they're like-minded people, and get people, art directors' numbers and stuff like that potentially, or emails. I mean, you know, and then just like go from there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you're like really bad and you're trying to do that, like it's a lot harder. Um, I think you can still take business cards. I don't think that's like people like, oh, your work's so bad. Never mind. Don't touch my business card. I don't think that'll be a thing. But my point is that like, you know, people will be more eager to try to remember you if your work's like pretty outstanding, you know,
Mm-hmm.
even to the point of potentially giving you opportunities, right? And so I like to tell people like have like a mission, like a battle plan. Like so, go to an event with a plan. Like okay, so there's GDC in March. I'm going to build a portfolio And so by March, I'm going to have a really epic portfolio to show people, you know, and then just do that, make that the strats, you know.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And GDC is just one idea of an event, but there's plenty others. There's THU, which is probably the most expensive event for the things that we do.
THU.
THU, like Trojan Horse is a unicorn.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. I follow their YouTube channel.
Yeah, they're huge. When it comes to like an event, like it's probably the event for artists, but it's like fucking expensive. And so I would say, you know, maybe not go to that one as your, unless it's like a passion of yours or you just save money, right? And I wouldn't say you shouldn't go to it because it's not a good event. I'm just saying it's a lot.
It's expensive, and one of the things I asked for was, you know, cost effectiveness. So
yeah, it's I think it's worth the cost. Like even if you have no like direct opportunity, but like just indirect opportunity to just like meeting all of the powerhouses all in like one event is pretty awesome. It's an incredible thing. But going to like workshops too, like these types of things are helpful because you get to meet these people and then sometimes they can offer you opportunities, you know, like because they know the people within the companies that you probably want to work for, right? Like plenty of my students, they've done this and they've done well. Like one of my students, I just found out, just got a job at Riot, so it's great, you know. But he's been working at it for almost 3 or 4 years. No, like 3 years, 3 years for sure, less than 3 years. And now he's over at Riot, but he's been hustling. He's been going to like events. He's been working on his portfolio, and he made friends with the people who work there. And eventually, they're just like, "Yeah, come on in," you know. Like there's plenty of work to be had. Like people are constantly looking, dude. Trust me. Okay, just like I said, like they go to ArtStation, there's like only one type of artist, you know. So that's why you want to kind of stand out amongst that as well. So that's why I give that advice. So anyway,
yeah, great, thank you.
Yeah, gives you kind of a broader understanding. Question: in a AAA game studio, how much time would I have to do something similar to the last assignment? How fast do we need to be? It all depends on where you work and who you work with. If you work in films, that request could be, you know, basically they can be asking for, you know, if you're working in film, they're asking for something that's like super rendered and realistic by the end of the day, and a couple versions of it. It's like 2 to 3 sketches, you know. But if you're working for games, you know, it could be about a good couple of days to a week. Like, so let's say like what I asked you guys to do would be done in like, yeah, like about a week's worth of time or something like that. Like, so the pace that we're going in the class right now. But then it just depends on the studio, like I said, because depending on the studio depends on the quality, you know what I'm saying? And so that's all I'm getting at. And so like when I was working at Blizzard, like yeah, we would have a lot of time to work on stuff. It was pretty nice. But then when I worked same studio, like at Blizzard, when we worked on the Warcraft film, that was not true. Like we had to like work so much faster, you know. But that makes sense because the film is at a different pace. Like it's like a production, like they're on sets and stuff like that, you know. So it just depends on where and who and what. I think the fastest industry, the one that works the quickest, is advertisement. Advertisers work crazy fast. Like it's like whatever you needed to do was due yesterday kind of fast, you know. And music videos too, like super fast timelines. But video games pretty laxed. Like if you think about like Red Dead Redemption, it took like 5 years to make, where movies are usually done in about a year or two, you know. And takes tons of artists to make a game like Red Dead Redemption, and honestly, 5 years is too fast still, as you probably have heard if you pay attention to any news outlets for games. Like, they overwork their staff pretty consistently. It's a big deal. I thought it was pretty funny. Like, I saw a lot of my friends complaining, like, how could they do this? And then the game came out and they're like, that's fine. And everyone started playing the game. I have not played the game, nor will I buy it, because I know friends who worked on it and they like they got wrecked. So it just depends. But I would say 3 to 4 characters, like really nice and well thought through and painted characters. If it takes you somewhere between a week or two to do, like from let's say one character, like takes you good like week from doing thumbnails, iterations, rendering, all that stuff. Like a week or two is pretty fast. A good month is a good pace for like a good character design, because you're going to go through stages of iterations and changes. So it's not so much like how long will it take you to just render a thing. It's like how long will you get to the final result, and that's almost always in the control of the decision makers, not so much you. But I always say if you just have a good pace in general, like you can do a painting pretty quickly, then you're pretty prepared for a lot of different circumstances. Yeah, maybe it was 8 years. I don't remember. I heard it was 5, but I could be wrong. CTN isn't good. Well, it's just that they fuck people over, especially the artists who attend. I had some students who had some really bad experiences too. Like, they would pay for like the VIP ticket, whatever that was called, and they would try to go to these events and workshops, and they would have to wait in line, and they basically would overbook. And then some of my students weren't able to go to any workshop at all that they wanted to go to because the lines were just too big, and they paid like this VIP ticket that was like hundreds of dollars more than, like, let's say a regular ticket, like $300, $400 more than like a regular ticket, which is like $70, I think, or $50. And they had like the same experience as like someone who just spent like $50 or $70. And I was like, yeah, it's just pretty shady. So that's why it's not great. They messed with speakers. We had an experience. We bought a booth that was like in a very specific spot according to the map. And then when we got there, they're like, nah, it's over here actually. And a lot of my friends, that's what happened to them too. So yeah, I heard something like they don't treat their speakers super well. Yeah. Do you have novels or artist biographies you recommend on industry history? That's actually a really good question that I don't really have a good answer for. Like, I think our industry is too young for like artists' biographies and histories. You know what I mean? I think like probably the youngest artist, or I mean the oldest artist that might have a book on them would be like something like Sid Mead, maybe, if I had to guess. But I don't know. But I think it's not a matter of not knowing. It's a matter of just there probably is some resources, but they're probably very rare because of the industry is still like you got to remember, video game industry itself is not that old. You know what I mean? Like, the whole idea of like a concept artist is like a new job. It's like when I started about 10 years ago, it was kind of like still brand new concept of like what that meant, you know? And so like I think a concept art job is like maybe like 60, like the idea, like the actual term for what I do, like in our industry, is probably no older than like 50, 60 years, you know? So we're still doing it. We're still figuring it out. If that makes sense. Yeah, maybe I should write one. How much story and background research are you sharing with your clients? What do you mean? Clarify by this. And Liz, you don't have to type. You can just talk if you want. It makes it easier.
I mean, like within the design phase, how much like mood boards and research are you giving in like written form or in just visual form?
Oh, it's just usually just concepts. Very rarely do we have just like a powwow and just talk about it, talk about our feelings.
Do
You know what
they generally provide that information to you?
I mean? Sometimes no, yeah. Like this is probably a really good example of what you might experience. They'll say, "Hey, we have this project." They may have like a script or like an outline. They may have like a whole lot of stuff, right? And sometimes what they'll do is just say, "Hey, like the idea is this," and it's like this cool idea or whatever, right? And then you just got to go for it, right? And then you do your own research and your own reference gathering of like what you think they're looking for, you know, and then you just try to create it. So a good way of thinking about this is imagine that like you're a chef, okay, and I'm a restaurant owner and I hired you to be my chef for my restaurant, okay, and I'm not telling you exactly what to make, but our restaurant is a seafood restaurant, you know, and you have some good credit in seafoods because that's like in your resume and your portfolio as a chef. And so I'm trusting that you're going to do a good job. Does this make sense? But it's not like I'm going to tell you how to cook your meal. You know what I mean? Like you're the chef. Just like some art directors won't tell you how to paint the painting. That's your job, is to help them find the answers to these questions, you know? They don't know. So they'll just send you like, yeah, like they'll send you as much information as possible that is necessary. But sometimes too much information will hold you back, right? Because it'll make you create some unnecessary restraints. Does this make sense? And so typically what I like to do is I say, hey, you know, what is it that you like? What's like the dream, like the like the elevator pitch of this idea that you guys got, right? And then they'll tell me that, and then I'll say, okay, cool. From there, then I ask them, you know, like, do you have any examples in terms of reference that come close to your ideas? And just kind of collage them together, put them together, and not a lot, just a couple. And then they do that. Then I'm like, all right, cool. Then I go from there and I try to extrapolate. And then once that happens, then you know I show them my work. And sometimes I can't explain it to them. Sometimes it's like all via email. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to sit there and write like a 2-page paragraph about like like a dissertation of my artwork, right? And nor would they want to read it, probably. You know what I mean? And so like the artwork's just really got to speak for itself. And I'm sure you've heard that many times, but this is definitely true as a concept artist. Okay. And typically from there, like the only time that I start to get really picky about what advice or insight they're giving me is when like we just keep running in circles. And then I eventually say, okay, we need to like take a break and really talk about this, you know, instead of just going in circles and just kind of guessing and hoping for the best. You know what I mean?
You feel like you've improved at that revision process over time? I mean,
Oh,
obviously,
dude,
but,
that's like my thing. I'm like the best at it. I'm like, I love revising and iterating. That's like, that is one of the things that I get paid for is that I do it so rapidly, you know? I got really good at painting
I mean
quickly.
more like communication style
Yeah, all
with
that.
clients.
Yeah, everything. Like I've learned to paint clearly because it makes communication easier, right? Because if I give them like, look at this image that I'm painting for you guys right now, right? Like imagine if I submitted this to you, right, as my thumbnail idea, and I had 5 other versions of this, right? like it doesn't, I don't leave that much to your imagination, right? Like it's pretty clear kind of like the direction I'm going, you know? And so it makes it easier for the client to give me advice or feedback on something that they can understand what they're looking at. That's why I always try to tell people, be very clear with your designs, you know? Because if you're not, you can run into a two-edged problem. One edge of the problem is that they give you feedback on something that they don't really understand, right? But they won't admit that because people are people. And then let's say you're going off of that feedback on the thing that they don't understand, and then you start painting what you believe what they said, but you don't even understand your own design. That's the other edge problem, right? And then you fall into this vicious cycle of like not really being able to understand each other. And I've been in that situation plenty of times. And I learned that if you just give someone a very clear depiction of what we're looking for, they can give you a hard yes or a hard no. And that's way better, you know, than just like a maybe. Maybes will get you killed. Okay? Because maybes are really too like fickle. Does that make sense? More questions. What do you think about unionizing game developers? How much do you have experienced poor working conditions? I'm going to answer these last two questions, and we're gonna call it a day, y'all. So then the next question is, I am from South Africa. We don't have a big game studios here, therefore I need to get a job visa or to work a studio overseas in America or whatever. How do you go about doing that? I can't go to these amazing events you guys are talking about. Okay, I'll get to that one after I answer this one. So Iego, so I'm indifferent about unions, meaning I don't know what's better, to have them or not to have them. Now, politically speaking, I actually lean more to the left than anything, but when it comes to like certain topics, I don't really know where I stand. Like I just don't have a strong opinion either. And it's mainly because I just don't know enough. And the stuff that I do know is what makes me question what's the right answer. I'm sure there's a good one, and usually good answers are just somewhere in between. And there's some issues that I just feel are pretty obvious, and I don't know why people have a hard time seeing them. And even when they try to rebut them, I'm just like not convinced. I'm just like, that's not a strong rebuttal. You need to give me a better point of contention. But with unions, it's one of those things that I just don't know. I've heard both sides, and I've heard both arguments, and I've seen examples, and I understand both arguments, and that's why I don't know. And so my feeling is that ultimately the solution for the game industry specifically is, I think, is a free market strategy. And I don't mean like a free market strategy within like making money from the games. I'm talking about like a free market strategy in terms of people need to leave these studios and make their own fucking games, right? And then studios will have to really pay people really well and give them really good working conditions to have any kind of employee worth their grain of salt. You know what I mean? But as of now, people aren't doing that enough, but it is slowly changing where more and more people are doing indie development, and indie development is actually a lucrative career, you know? And that's kind of my point. But right now, people don't do that. Like some of these people who are working at these studios, who are working these crazy conditions, or if they just like grabbed like a couple of them, like if one person grabbed another person and another person, like one programmer, animator, and like a modeler, they can make stuff, dude. You know what I mean? The tools have never been easier. The availability of like access to these types of platforms is only growing. You know what I mean? So it seems to me like a union might be too late. It's too late for a union. Because a union, I've seen like the idea is like to have like a people's, approach to approaching the government, basically having somebody speak for the workers, right? And I think it works really well in environments like construction. Construction, I heard, had like really great unions. But it makes sense, right? Because, you know, in construction, the type of work there isn't really safe. And more importantly, it's the kind of work that can be done really well. And seniority matters quite a bit, meaning like the longer you're a construction worker, the more you understand the dangers of being a construction worker. You can only learn so much on the job. I'm sorry, like in the books, like you learn way more on the job type of thing. Where being a senior concept artist doesn't necessarily mean you have the experience over, like the experience is going to matter more over someone, let's say, who's just better artist. There are junior level artists in terms of junior, meaning like they've only worked maybe like 1 year versus like, let's say someone like me, which is like 11 years, that are 10 times better than me, right? But because if a union existed, I would be protected, and then that person may not have an opportunity because of this type of union. Does this make sense? And so that actually will fuck over the new talent. And that's actually what unions are. That's usually the counter argument for unions, is that it holds back opportunity for newer clients. And I would be totally okay with bringing in new talent. I'll be like, yeah, hell yeah, let's do it. But trust me, there are some people that would not, because their jobs, you know what I mean? And I've seen it, and because there's unions in the film industry, and that's exactly what's happening. So it's not even just like an experiment or a hypothetical thought. It's actually happening. In fact, I talked to people that work in there, and they say, yeah, like there's some people that have been working in the film industry for so long, they go to ArtStation, they know their jobs are on the line. They haven't adapted to new tools. They haven't tried new techniques. It's not to say that they're bad artists. It's that there's better artists out there. That's all I'm getting at. Okay? And so that's why I don't know. So I think the solution is like a free market one, specifically for this game. Like I can't say for everything. I think there are really good, strong cases for unions for other careers and other paths. That's why I don't know. I just don't know. But if I had to give my opinion on it, that's my opinion. And I put like a hard O on my opinion, man. Like I don't know if it's a good opinion either. I could be totally wrong, right? But that's why I'm a big fan of iteration and testing shit out, but people don't like to test shit out. People don't like change. Like if it doesn't work, then you just reinvent it, you restructure it. You don't just stick with it, or you just totally write it off. But you know, as you guys probably know in the political field, people do that all the time. Oh, it didn't work that one time. It'll never work. Or, oh, it does work, but we won't fix all these like little holes and kinks in the problems that we see and everyone else sees. Like, no, that's fine. Like, no, you should totally be adjusting things, and you should always keep things accountable in all spectrums. But people don't, so that's why unions are hard to install because of fear. But it makes sense, man. I get both arguments. I just don't know. I really don't know. Question. I know. What are you using for game dev? I'll answer that real quick since that's a quick one. I'm just learning all of them, and I've decided to stick kind of to web for a bit. We'll see. I started in web. I started in Unreal, loved it, and then I kind of stepped away, and then I got back into it, and I started learning web, and I think web is the future. So I'm gonna probably stick with that one. Okay, so Kyle, you're gonna be the last one. So
yeah.
Yee.
Yeah.
So you can't come to these events at all? Is it impossible?
Well, I mean,
or it's just challenging?
Well, yeah, probably challenging. It's just definitely. I was a bit dramatic there, but the whole like, I mean, you were saying that these events are like really expensive, and I know that, like, you know, I mean, South Africa, the rand is quite behind the dollar. So for me to go to events over there would bankrupt me,
Well,
to say the least.
well,
so
where are you at? Cape Town? Is that what it was?
Cape Town, yeah.
Okay, let me see something. Cape Town to LAX. Let's see what that is. Expedia. So it doesn't go that far.
Just that like intense frustration of having to go that extra mile just to like go to an event is pretty irritating.
What the? Cape Town to LAX. Let's see. I'm sure it is expensive. Let's find out. Okay. So round trip is about, it's actually cheaper than I was expecting. I don't think that's cheap. I'm just cheaper than I expected.
Yeah.
Let's see. It's still trying to figure it out. So maybe there's something even cheaper.
And 34
Okay, so
hours
somewhere
flight.
between 1,100 to 1,300, we'll say. All right. So what you can try to do. This is what the strategy that you would try to do, right? Like you say, okay, BlizzCon is around in November. That's why I was trying to go for as far as I could. That's the place you probably want to go. You take your portfolio with you, and you just get some feedback, and you get to visit California and get that experience, right?
Yeah.
But if we went for the higher cost, which is 1,300, and let's say we divided that by 12, that just means you got to save between $108, like pretty much every month, right? You divide that by 4, that's about $27 every week. And I would say you should expedite that. You should try to go faster. So then let's say you try to save 2 times that. So let's just make it an even $60 a week.
Okay.
Right? So $60 a week. $1,300, 60. What am I doing here? Why did I divide it by that? Oh, it's like 21 weeks.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, 3.5, maybe like, let's just put it like to 4 months. So about 4 to 5 months, or maybe even 6 months. If you just like take an extra job that maybe gets you that extra $50 or $200 a month, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
You'll have enough to fly out. What is this? Trying to hack me? You'll have enough to just get out there, right?
Yeah.
Then the next thing is like a place to stay, which is much cheaper than that, right? Like if you find like an Airbnb, like you can do like a room thingy, is share a room with like other people. It's really cheap, like hostels and stuff. And then to save money for cost of staying, like food and drink and whatever.
Yeah.
You'll find that it's actually not as crazy as you might think. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's going to be an event that won't guarantee anything, but it will demonstrate like a few things that you have some strong discipline, you saved yourself, and it'll put you there, and it will fuel you for the next year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you do the same thing. Save up, go next year, better, bigger, better, and stronger. You know what I mean? Obviously, you can do online events. Like sometimes there's contests. You can always, but once you make that first connection, you get those emails, you make friends with people, then you can start sending them texts or emails and of your progress every so often. You know what I mean?
Awesome. Yeah.
So you just got to build a strategy. Like if you mean like just straight up buy like a $1,300 ticket out of nowhere, yeah, you're fucking right. That's fucking expensive. But if you just approach it like, okay, well, I can't do that, obviously, but maybe if I just save my money and just slowly build it up, then I can get there. You know?
Yeah.
Maybe if I just take one extra job, as a waiter, and just take all my tips and put that in a jar. Like in a movie, like you see this shit in the movies all the time, right? Like just live the movie, Yeah. And then you'll do it. You'll be surprised, like it will happen. And then, and as a matter of getting a BlizzCon ticket, I can get you a BlizzCon ticket. Like I won't get it for free, but I can have someone hold it for you. I have plenty of contacts with Blizzard. The problem with BlizzCon tickets is not the cost; it's the availability, because they sell out within the same like hour that they were released.
Oh my God,
Well, maybe this year not because of fucking Immortal. We'll see. But
definitely,
I can get you a ticket, right?
Yeah.
So
cool.
So, and I can even get you a tour of Blizzard if you get out here. So all that's possible. You just got to get out here, right?
All right.
Because you've already made contact with me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it is hard. That is absolutely right. Like, it's way easier for me to go to BlizzCon, like always. I've lived in California most of my life, right?
Yeah.
Of course. Right. But like, that's my point, you know? Like, you just got to just do the thingy.
Yeah.
Right. And then when you one day when you work at Blizzard and you're now like a well-known Blizzard artist and you're doing demos and workshops around the world and you're talking to other artists, maybe you're doing your own mentorship, your own tutorials or YouTube videos, whatever the hell it is, you're going to get asked, like, how did you do it? And you're going to have a much better success story than most people. All right.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a really inspiring one. So just make it happen. Okay.
All right.
And
Awesome.
and Blizzard's always looking, dude. Trust me, they are. And so you just got to be capable. And they will help you with all that stuff. There was, like, I think, a Russian artist that they just hired to work on this new top secret project that my buddy was telling me about.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they took care of all that stuff because this guy's dope, you know?
Yeah.
Like, he was doing freelance for them for a bit, and then they're just like, let's just bring him down.
Is it by any chance Template Painter?
I can neither confirm or deny.
Yeah, you're very kind. Yeah.
This is a friendly. I didn't sign any contracts. But I will say I can at least say that it happens. It happens more than you think.
Yeah,
Okay.
for sure. Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
All right, guys. I'm glad that you guys had some good submissions today. Hope you guys enjoyed the Q&A. Great work as always, y'all, and have a great weekend. Don't be strangers, and I'll talk to you guys later. I'm going to pick up from where I left off in the last class. I was painting this dude. If you want to watch kind of the beginning and just listen in on Q&A of the other class, I recommend you try, and you should. You guys can go and watch it in the Dropbox folders on the website. With that being said, I'm going to try to see if I can get this bad boy somewhere done-ish. So there was a topic that I was going to talk about just a little bit, which was I think it was like the industry and then women in the industry, or like the ladies. So there's very few that are like really good. I mean, there's quite a bit. When I say few, I don't mean like two. I just mean that there's not a lot of them comparatively to like the men. And I think there's just some sort of like, cultural difference and social difference there, but I don't know what it is, and I'm not going to even pretend I know. But what I will say is that as much of like the crazy news you guys may hear from the outside, within there just wasn't as much as people may suspect. I'm sure there are places that have like kind of some sort of toxic environment. But it's just how it is for now. But I think people are now starting to realize, okay, we should probably be less and less inclined to keep this stuff to ourselves. We should start talking about it, and that's a good thing. One of the things that I will say is that the people that I see online, because I do see a lot of people who will say other stuff, like they'll get a little bit more like, whatever, dude, women suck. But not in that literal sense. Some do, but not in that literal sense. But they'll just say some stuff that just won't be as sympathetic. My strategy to navigate this is I always lean on empathy more than I lean on anything else. So I like to get all the facts. I don't like to just jump to any conclusion. But, I do tend to try to be more sympathetic and empathetic to the cause. And the more severe the situation may appear, the more I try to get an understanding and try to be sympathetic to both sides. But there are just a few things that I just know are relatively true, and I think most people, if they were just to take a second and just think about it, they would admit would be true as well. So, for instance, I remember like there was this time where people were saying that like some of these female devs at Riot were over exaggerating, or perhaps they just weren't, you know, they're just saying stuff just to kind of get the culture like frowned upon and get Riot some hate points, specifically over at Riot. And my impulse is that it's not so much to believe that people can lie. Like, of course people can lie, and people can exaggerate. When I was in school, there was a female artist who tried to get me kicked out because she didn't like me, because I didn't like her, because she had two of my good friends nearly, or not nearly, they got into a fist fight over her, and it was really petty and stupid. And I remember telling her to her face that it was petty and stupid, and that she should have not done that. You know what I mean? And she didn't like that, and she went out of her way to try to get me kicked out of school. She tried to, you know, call foul and say that I was some sort of crazy person. So I understand that there is an opportunity there that seems uniquely female, right? Because it's harder for a man to come off saying that these things are true and people to believe them. But that's because there's a reason. You know, there's more cases of dudes fucking over chicks, you know what I mean, than the opposite, in terms of like, you know, career, in terms of like abuse, all these types of things. It's just statistically true. And so I usually just think about it that way. I'm like, yeah, that might have happened to me, but it's not as prominent as the latter. But at the same time, you have to be aware that both could happen, and we have to do due diligence. You know what I mean? You got to look through everything. And so I would say if you're ever working with like a female devs and stuff, and even if you feel like you know who they are and stuff, you should always just be a lot more sympathetic and empathetic until more evidence surfaces. And you shouldn't react, especially. You shouldn't put any real consequential action until there is any evidence. You know what I mean? Because then otherwise you might get someone in trouble that didn't really do anything. And of course it goes both ways. And like the opposite problem happened. I think there was a dude who worked at Naughty Dog, and he was getting abused there by the one of the lead female project people. You know, it's the same problem, but just flipped roles, right? And so like this type of thing is less likely to happen because usually studios are full of dudes. And so then, you know, you see this kind of thing happen more likely to the very few female devs that are working in the studio. And that's just because, you know, dudes are dudes. It's just how we are. Like people forget that we're still animals. You know what I mean? Like we literally are. There's no disputing this. We have primal urges and we react to them like without rationality a lot of times. But as a society, we agreed that certain things are, you know, can't do, you know, and as long as you keep to those, I think you'll be okay. And the way you can support, like if you feel like you want to help out and support your female coworkers or peers in the industry, just encourage them to keep at it and keep pushing their work and be the best they possibly can be. Because that's how you get them in. You got to encourage them. You got to show them that it's welcome. And I think it's really important to distinguish the two. And there was an example of overreacting where there was this female narrative dev designer who was working on ArenaNet, and she wrote this really nice post about like how challenging it is to design for like a open world RPG type thingy, you know. And it was really in depth, and it was very valuable insight into like, you know, how the industry works when it comes to narrative design for characters. One person who's a big fan of hers and a fan of the game, you know, made a comment disagreeing with her, saying something along the lines of like, you know, I respectfully disagree. I think there might be an opportunity, and I don't know. And what he wrote was pretty sincere, and it's pretty clear it was sincere. And then her reaction was, oh, this is what it's like to work as a female dev in the game industry. Now, I don't doubt, like I just gave plenty of great examples and understand, like, you know, men can be more abusive in certain circumstances in the workplace, especially if there's only one. I'm sure you've seen this happen. I've seen it way too many times. There'll be like one chick that's be working in a place and then everybody like tries to date her, you know, especially if she's attractive. You know, it's just how it works, man. It's kind of just the thing. And so I'm sure these types of things happen to her a lot, or sometimes there's this kind of weird subtext that sometimes people don't listen as much as they should, right? And so she might have felt a lot of this, and a lot of it I'm sure had merit, but the problem was that this situation was not the proper time to react the way she did, and it really got out of hand and it was really out of control. And I feel like her reaction was really unjust, and she should have apologized. Because that way she could have moved the dial forward and realized, you know, not all people who give her criticism, if they happen to be men, are talking down to her. It clearly was not the case. The irony was that the same person who gave her criticism literally gave her tons of praise the day before, I think it was, or a couple of days before. Not knowing that she was going to post this thing, you know, like he wasn't like doing some sort of crazy conspiracy of like, and then when she finally writes the thing, I'm going to go after her. And I found that like in the industry, like there's a lot of people defending her, like as if she did nothing wrong. And I think that's really problematic because then it fuels the wrong fire and it gets the wrong people coming out of the shadows to be like, see. And so I think it's really important to be kind of objective and call out bullshit when it's bullshit, and I think you'll be fine, because it is really touchy and people get real sketch, you know what I mean? And I think it's really important that people need to start to fucking listen to each other and be reasonable more and more these days, and realize that the industry would benefit from having more and more diversity of all sorts. I mean, speaking of it from like on an ethnic side, like I am probably single-handedly the only Black Korean artist that I can think of in the whole industry, right? So I just have experiences and insight that is just different. It's not better, it's just different, right? And then same thing, like in terms of just Black artists, there's like only like probably like in our industry that are working at a high level, like professionally, probably less than a couple dozen. And so that should change too. I think there should be just more and more, but it's not a matter of just going to like a place and just picking up a bunch of people and then putting them there. It's just a matter of getting more exposure to people who have no exposure. And then the numbers will change, not normally and gradually. And you may never have a equilibrium of perfect ethnicities and gender across the board. It's probably unlikely. The same way, like you don't see that many Asian basketball players for whatever reason, right? It's just kind of the thing. You know, it's not like the NBA is proactively trying to prevent Asian basketball players. It's just how it is as of now. It could change in the future, but right now it's just how it is. It could be cultural, it could be environmental, it could be biological, you know, who knows? But right now that's just how it is. But you don't see people, you don't see I forget what it was called, like the AA or something, like the Asian Associated Arrangement Group or whatever, I don't know what they're called, going after the NBA for lack of diversity. And so I think, again, like just being open and happy about diverse groups and being more on the positive side of that argument than I see a lot of people who are really absolutists on both sides, and it's really problematic for our industry. Like we are not that industry. We really aren't. Like we're a bunch of nerds. And so we need to get back to being nerds and happy about introducing more nerds into the industry than finding ways to just win an argument. You know what I mean? So it's all good. I stay awake this time normally. Oh, you were just talking about something else. But anyway, that's all I have to say about that. And hopefully it gives you guys some insight. But have I ever seen any kind of extreme case of anything? Like, not really. I've seen like subtle cases. Like the boys club part, I think of argument that I've heard. I think that's a real thing. Like talking about like dicks and doing dick jokes like every 5 seconds, and just being like, like a dude's club. That is a thing for sure. And I think it would make some people uncomfortable. Just like I'm sure, like if you were in a salon or something where it was predominantly women and they were just talking about women stuff for long periods of time, it could get uncomfortable. It doesn't mean any kind of underlining fear of women or anything. It's just when people are talking about things you just don't understand, you just feel out of place. And that's not necessarily their fault. It's just how it is. So with that being said, let's go into some questions. So if you guys have questions about anything outside of anything, let me know. It can be painted related. It can be personal, whatever is on your mind.
I have a question.
Go for it.
I see that your designs are very unique. Do you consciously try to avoid like the typical designs when it comes to characters?
Yes. Next.
Okay, and how do you do that? Like how did you train yourself?
I'm sorry, say it again?
How did you train yourself or
okay. Yeah, I was going to get into that. I was just joking about next. So I do it because I like to do things that nobody else is doing. That's just really how it is, right? I like to feel like that I'm a special little snowflake, you know what I mean? And so, and the only way to do that is to actually be a special little snowflake. And the way to practice this is as follows. You just got to look and experience things that most other people are just not doing. Okay. So remember how I was saying, like, if you keep looking at, like, let's say military, sci-fi stuff, you're going to like get good at drawing military sci-fi stuff, But if that's all you're looking at and that's all you're drawing from, then guess what? That's what you're going to get really good at. And it's going to be amongst a sea of many more people. You know what I mean? And so I can use a good example of like game dev, because that's what I'm getting into right now, right? So I'm getting into game dev, and I was getting back into like learning Unity and Unreal and all these like high-end programming game dev tools. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And I was like making like this environment, and it was just so good with so little effort. You know what I mean? And I was just thinking, man, like there's only 2 solutions here to being a viable, like something that's like going to last for a while, right? In terms of game development, there's only 2 factors here that I should consider. One, that this thing that I'm trying to learn, it didn't take me long to learn, and many other people can start to learn it too in a short amount of time. Okay. So that means that what I have to provide has to be at a really extremely high quality, and it has to be pretty creative. Okay. Does that make sense? And so then the next thing that I thought is like, well, I have to also do that. And then I also have to just be able to bring in like interesting and creative ideas. But even then I felt, but still like, that's really hard to do at the time being, right? And so like with programming, I decided to go back to web development. You know what I mean? And because I already feel like the internet is not going to go anywhere, and web is only going to get better and better and better. You know what I mean? And so that way, if I can get to that place before anyone else, or at least amongst only a couple other people, right? Then I'll be leading in an industry that has not yet to really exist. And I mean like web games that look high end, And it's really hard. but that's why I'll do it. And the kinds of games I'm going to make are the kinds of games that aren't going to look like your average bear either. Here, you guys can take a look at the one I'm working on right now. Let's see. I'll let you guys try it out too. Check the Skype link.
Stuff.
So can you guys see the, whoops. Let's do full screen. Can you see the thing? I don't know if you guys can see it or not. Can you see it?
Yeah, we can see it.
So you can see it's a completely like 3D environment. It's got like, you know, PBR like textures, you know, it's got some sound, it's got some basic functionality in terms of movement, right? There's no gameplay. Like I've been thinking about how to do the AI, right? I've been putting this on some certain Discords forums, and people say it's slow. I want it to be slow because I want to make it feel like when something's chasing you, you're fucked. But maybe it's a bad design choice. We'll find out in time. And so there's like a tree, and it runs smooth. It should run relatively smooth on some of your guys' internets, depending on how fast your internet is. Right? And it's the WASD controls and the mouse to look around. Right? If you play any first-person shooter, you already know what you should be doing. And so it took me about like a week and a half to kind of put this together. After obviously years of like learning programming and basic game dev, you know? So I'm already like trying to make games that look cool too. You know what I mean? And feel cool. And so I'm trying to hit a market that like is very unique. That's like not really there, you know? And when I was doing concept art, I was doing the same thing. You know what I mean? It was the same kind of strategy. And the things that I did was just look at stuff that other people weren't looking at. Like when I was learning robot design, I was also looking at cars and finding how to like make robots look way more cooler. And I was looking at industrial design and product design. Like I would look at how toasters are made and try to find ways to make that unique and just understand like toaster design. You know what I mean? And so if you keep looking at the same stuff and you keep doing and jumping into the realm that everyone else is doing, then it is going to be very challenging to push designs that feel unique. Now, again, this is not intent and unique in the way that you might think. Like there's plenty of designs I could probably point you to that show you how and why I got to images like this, you know? But it's because they existed that I found them is why I'm able to draw them. It's like just digging deeper, going deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole and finding examples that are not found elsewhere. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the short answer is look at stuff that you don't normally look at all the time and study it. Alongside understanding the principal ideas of what makes those things look cool in the first place. Those two in combination is pretty good. Understanding the fundamentals of painting and design and looking at concepts and stuff that nobody else there would look at. Like I've already kind of drawn this kind of hooded character before too, so it's not too unique. Unique for maybe like everything else, but like I've done this before. Just felt like doing it again.
Got a question in the chat.
Oh yeah, thank you. So maybe a weird question, but how do you approach devs at conventions with your portfolio? I don't know. I don't want to come off rude and make them feel like I'm shoving portfolio in their face. Yeah, just read the situation, you know? Like if they're like at dinner at like a restaurant and you just happen to be there and you're just like, hey, look at my portfolio. Like that might be not the best time. But if they're like, standing around talking to other people, like, yeah, just get up there, introduce yourself and say, hey, I would really love to get a portfolio review. If they say no, just say, oh, no problem. Thanks for your time anyway. Hope you have a good event or whatever the hell you're at, Just be a polite person. Most people aren't out to be rude to you for no reason. And if they are, then that's probably a good sign you wouldn't want to work for them anyway. Okay? If they're like, get the F out of my face, then you're just like, oh, shit, okay. And so, yeah, you just got to read the situation, like read the social cues. Like if you can tell that the person's trying to get the F out of there, like they don't want to actually be there, then maybe you shouldn't do it then either, even if they're like right in front of you, right? Because they don't want to do it. Just because they're a good artist or someone you respect doesn't necessarily mean they owe you a portfolio review, obviously. And they might actually hate doing it, but they're just there to do a workshop and they're just like, okay, I don't want to be here anymore. I've done the thing that I was supposed to. So that happens, So just be very aware of like what people are like, how their body language. And there's obviously other people that are just like totally like their body language is like, yeah, let's do it. They're just like totally, and they're just there to help people out. I'm one of those people. In fact, I get in trouble for this sometimes. Like when I'm doing workshops, I'll just stand there for hours and just be reviewing people's stuff. And then like people who are handling the event are like, hey, we're supposed to go to dinner already. And I'm like, all right, hold on, just let me look at 17 other more portfolios. And so it's just because I like to do that, and it's a nice thing to do. If I'm there, I feel like it's an opportunity for those people. It happened to me a lot. A lot of people were really nice and gave me feedback. So it's like the whole pay it forward type of thing, But not everybody, like I said, owes you that. So don't feel betrayed if someone doesn't do it, and don't compare like one artist's like appreciation of like review versus someone else's lack of appreciation of it. Everyone's different, and we got to respect that. Like I said, I roll on the more empathetic side. I roll like we were talking a little bit about politics earlier. Like, let me give you a good example. So, there are opportunities where I can see both arguments, and there's fair or points to be made on both sides, and in some regard. But I put up more with one side than the other because I understand one side's argument is more rooted in like a deep-seated respect of others and love for others. So for instance, like you'll have like the extreme SJW type, which is like very stereotypical. And these people are the kinds of people who get outraged over like Halloween costumes, which is kind of crazy, And, so I see that and I'm just like, okay, it's fine. I'm not gonna lose my mind over this. I'm not gonna stay up at night. I'm not gonna fight these people more than I have to, right? It all depends on the context of the situation, because their standpoint is like you shouldn't steal from like other cultures and all this stuff, even though I don't really understand what they mean by this. But like, you get what I'm saying? Like I don't get too caught up in that because the heart of their argument is actually rooted in empathy for others. So I just kind of like just let it go usually. But then, you have other people who, let's say, are a lot more like insular and like have like more of an exclusive attitude about culture. Like, this is our culture. Nobody else should have it. And we'll do everything in our power to prevent this from happening. And those tend to lead to people who are Nazis, right? So I understand having a pride in one culture. And I think that there's like obviously gradations to this. But whenever that leads to some sort of militant behavior that says we are definitely going to hurt other people or we don't like them because of this really small and very subtly indifferent thing, I have less tolerance for that because I feel like that is clearly counterproductive. and ass backwards. Like, I mean, history has showed time and time again, this type of thinking has only led to incredible hardship. Even like Genghis Khan, the greatest fucking murderer of our, probably of our fucking human history, was an inclusive conqueror. He was just ruthless about his inclusivity, right? Like, it was very like, you had to be included or you're not, right? He was like, hey, you know, you're going to join our forces. And if you don't, we're going to burn your whole fucking city down to the ground. And people would say, no, we don't want to do that. We don't want to be a part of your thing. He said, all right, burn it to the ground. And then when they burn it to the ground, then he would have people wait like for weeks for people who were like, let's say we're on vacation and come back to their ashes of a city and like, what happened? Oh my God. And then they would get heads chopped off, you know? And so, yeah, it's that's kind of the position that I like to hold in general. So like when you're talking to people about like portfolios and stuff like that, I think most people just, you know, are kind, you know, and so if you're kind back, it works out. And if they're super mean to you and they're jerk offs, I don't care what their title is. You just dodged the bullet by not having to work with those types of people. Okay. And so, yeah, just don't be afraid. That's the thing. People are just afraid because for whatever reason. Yeah, if you're nice, like, and you're very polite, there's nothing to be afraid of. Like, who cares if they feel like you're a noob? You know, that's just that's something that you hold inside of you. I don't want to hog the questions, but if you do a freelance job, do you need to get a lawyer to write up a contract, or what's the process? Usually, I have the people who want to hire me write up the contract. Your job is just to make sure you agree with it. And if they don't have a contract, there's plenty of websites online that you can like get contracts, like templates. But again, you should read the contracts and understand it. Because getting a lawyer costs money to write up contracts and stuff like that. So if you don't have the kind of money to just get a lawyer, then you just kind of like get templates. But I usually let like the studios do all that stuff for me. Yeah, just make sure to read a good amount of what the contract says. Like if it says like you have to give up your firstborn or something, you don't want to do that. Maybe you do. I don't know. Depends on the job, right? Like, what's the job?
Hey, I got a question.
Yeah, what's up?
So when you're painting a form like skin, and you're shading it,
Uh-huh.
what is it that you're trying to do when you go like across the form? I noticed that you did that earlier. I wanted to ask, like, are you consciously thinking of something or
I'm not.
no? Okay.
But what's going on is just practice, right? Like, so I just know that forms need to be a subtle transition. Like it can't be like this, like a really hard transition.
Yeah.
Right. Like if you have like two things, like this is what you see a lot, and you'll see like very like islands of value, like this is like all the same value all the way across and all the way across. So it makes it really flat. So you need to find ways to like blur that feeling, you know, as much as possible. And it just takes tons of practice. This brush is not the best for it either. Right. And so like for me, it's all about doing that.
I see. So it's like you're just like finessing as you go.
Yeah, and I used to do that a lot, and I used to use airbrushes and stuff, but now I use like smudge brush a lot of the time. But I'm trying to get back to using airbrush because airbrush has a more natural feeling with some of this type of stuff. But it's kind of like this. It's like
Is that silo?
dude,
Yikes.
get out of here. Get out of here with your yikes.
Silo, bro. Silo. We got Blender now, dude.
I am on Blender. I'm on both.
I
I love both softwares.
Not pick.
So I know this is like
Yeah, using viewport shading to.
yeah, so it's not like rear rendering, but like the whole idea here is like people tend to like paint their values like something like these two right here, or like the value change is very like extreme for certain, like all forms, instead of like having different versions of like ways that things are rounded. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because seeing the roundness on this form is really hard to see, because that's the point. It's like super subtle, but it's happening, you know? And I think like when people first start out, like they have to see the transition for it to exist, you know? And the reality is it's not like that's way more subtle.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah. Like, so if I were to like come in here and just do something like this, it's going to make it feel that much more believable. Because what I've done is I've done a little bit too much. Because what I've done is create more of that illusion of that like larger form. And then like right here, the ribs are turning like at a little bit of a harder angle. So like right here, we can probably get away with like a little bit more of a harder turn, you know? But it's still pretty subtle, and that's going to look more believable right there too. And then right here, the values are pretty consistent almost all the way through. So that's a problem, because this is more like a barrel volume. So we should probably push the forms there too. It's a little too much. But now it's like we're losing some of that side. So maybe we should make a design choice here. But I'm not sure how it's going to be. So I'm just going to which is just add like a rim light of some sort. So we can try to capture some of that side form, yeah.
You got another chat question?
I always hear different opinions on this. Should I worry about my style? Well, what do you hear, Robbie? You don't have to type, you can talk, bud. Elaborate your question if you don't mind. If you're trying to talk, I can't hear you, by the way. Oh, is it super late? That's right, it's like 4 in the morning or something. Yeah, but elaborate on this question so I can try to answer it thoroughly. Yeah, see, this is pretty nice, but I'm not sure how I feel about it. I feel like we should cover this arm. Any other questions as Robbie is writing up his... Oh, say I like Paling's rendering style or style of rendering. Should I be trying to copy his stuff or just learning the fundamentals and let it come naturally? Well, again, I don't know what the premise of like what you've heard before. So I'm just going to kind of guess, and then you just kind of just fill in the gaps from there on your own. So usually people say you shouldn't like copy someone's style because it's their style, and it's just kind of like taboo to not have your own style or whatever. But then at the same time, it's like, how do you do that? It's like, it seems so mysterious. But style is like the same, like you should think of style like the same way as like language. Like you speak, English, but you have like an accent to your English, right? Like the way you speak it is very specific, you know? Like I have an accent too. Like I sound like a white dude. I sound like a person from California. You know what I mean? And that's because I am from California, and that's because I hang out with a lot of white dudes. You know, like I have a friend who's like from Africa, and he was a student of mine before, and he would take my class, and whenever he would talk, I just saw a white dude. I just never thought of anything else. And then one day I saw a picture of him, and he's like dark as night, you know. And I was like, whoa, what the, you know, it threw me off because, you know, you have a very distinct visual whenever you hear people talk. And my point about this is that, like, you know, like art style is like a language in terms of the way you talk it, like the way you speak English. And so like art in terms of like how you paint is like that too. Like, so for instance, some people will say y'all versus you all, or people say hey guys instead of you all as well, right? Like a thing that I know is like definitely from like from the south, or like from like more from the black community, is something like you know what I mean? Nah, I mean, nah, I mean, like, do you know what I mean? Like that's something I say a lot too. That's probably something I got from my dad. You know? And so like when I paint, it's like the same thing. Like I got a little bit of like Wang Wei influence here, got a little bit of Ryan Meinerding, got a little bit of like Craig Mullins, Jamie Jones, Jason Chan, you know, all these other artists like Pele and a lot of people on ArtStation and Carlos Swante, Jeremy Geddes, Phil Hale. Like a little bit of them are peeking through my artwork. You know what I mean? Know what I mean? And so you shouldn't really worry about it. At first, you probably will look like a couple artists, you know, and it'll be really easy to spot like your influences. Just keep expanding the people you look at, and it will slowly and naturally go away. And you'll have like a very distinct style of your own. Because the mashup of all those artists that I just named is what makes Anthony Jones, you know. So that is my style, is because of all those people. Weird flex, but okay. What do you mean by that, Michael?
It's a black Twitter thing, bro.
See, that's what I'm saying. You talk black.
Where's your culture at?
I don't have one, dude.
What's your HSB?
Yeah, what's your? Yeah, when we used to do streams a lot, like we had this thing like because to figure out what color you are, like what race you are, or ethnicity, you just say like, "What's your HSB, dude? What's your HSB? What's your hue, saturation, and brightness?" That's so funny.
Good times.
Yeah, I forgot why we brought that up. Actually, was it because like somebody was just, we didn't know what they are? We were just like, "What's your HSB?"
Probably. Yeah. I think it was Kalen that like started pushing that. We just kind of rolled. It's funny.
Yeah, it was funny.
I think we were gonna make like T-shirts, like Robotpencil T-shirts of like HSB or something.
That's a really funny. That's very niched. I don't know if it would do well. Because one, you would have to understand the premise of the joke, of the meme, and then you would have to be an artist to even understand what it's like. It's just too many layers to get past. But it is a cool idea, ultimately. It's just clever. That's probably what it is. It's just it's clever in the context of our conversation.
Yeah.
It kind of really makes it obvious that even among different cultures, you have a variety of skin tones, which is overlooked. It kind of really makes it obvious that even among different cultures, you have a variety of skin colors, which is overlooked. Not a question. Okay. Just commenting on HSB. Yeah, like my culture is American. Like I'm the American culture. I live for having big things, right? That's like the thing. I've been trying to get away from that actually, from my own culture. I think it's toxic. But anyway, take one more question. We'll call this a day. Should it just be, bro? How long is it too long to spend on a thumbnail? I think once you start to really kind of get to the tune of trying to make thumbnails super quick, I think trying to make a thumbnail in under 30 minutes is a good amount of time. So anything above that is too long. Because the whole point of the thumbnail is just to be like a quick sketch, you know? And so, and it's supposed to give you like a lot of, like get you a lot of the way there. And so if you spend like more than that, like I think you kind of overlook the whole point. Then it's just like, then you're just drawing and rendering, right? If you go beyond half an hour. And so then, like if you're trying to do that, like that's fine. But if you're just trying to have like a quick idea of like something that you give to somebody else so they can kind of write off, like give you some feedback on, and then you can move from there, then yeah, I think that you definitely want to, have a quicker turnaround. "30 minutes, I think, is the prime time. Anything above that is a little too long." Now, for you guys are still training, so it's okay if you guys go a little over. Don't panic. It's okay if you guys go a little over. I'm just saying the goal is to stay under half an hour. If you're looking to know what the goal may be for right now, I would say like under an hour. I've been learning that on this assignment. Awesome. See, I thought that was too long. I always assumed it should be ridiculously fast. Yeah, I usually pump out a thumbnail between 5 to 10 minutes, but again, I'm exceptional, right? I'm trying to give you a good estimation for like a professional grade thumbnail. I think like a thumbnail that I think is good for most professionals on average. I think 30 minutes is good. For me, yeah, 5-10 minutes, I pump them out like crazy. I pump them out real quick. So anyway, cool beans, y'all. I hope you guys learned a lot. Thanks for turning in the assignments. You guys are kicking butt. Keep at it. With that being said, you guys have a great day, great weekend. Don't be strangers. Talk and hang out with one another. And, oops, hold on. Oh, it froze probably. It's all right. We're in the class anyways. And I'll see you guys next week. Latest, friends. Thank you for watching this video. I appreciate it. Please subscribe to watch more in the future. If you like the video, I would appreciate a thumbs up. If you like this content, you can go to my website, robotpencil.net, where you can find mentorships, tutorials, and a Patreon to get more exclusive content. Thanks again, and I'll see you guys in my next videos.